Have you ever reached the point where you're no longer trying to be understood, only at peace? That's the exact moment the dynamic shifts. It's the day they realize their weapon is useless, because you've finally turned off the emotional lights and left them to fumble in the dark. Hello everyone, and welcome back. Today we are diving deep into perhaps the most powerful and terrifying turning point in any relationship with a narcissist. The day you decide to turn off the emotional lights and watch them fumble in the dark. This is not just about ignoring them. This is about achieving total emotional sovereignty. And trust me, when a narcissist's supply source dries up, they don't just get mad, they genuinely break. We are talking about the profound realization that your lack of reaction is their ultimate psychological destruction. You see, the core of narcissistic supply isn't love, adoration, or even respect. It is reaction. They thrive on the energy you expend, whether that energy is joy, fear, confusion, or most commonly, desperate defensiveness. Every time you explain yourself, every time you cry, every time you try to defend your own truth, you're basically handed them the fuel they need to keep the fire burning. They don't want your love. They want your exhaustion. They want to see that they still have the power to make your hands shake. Think of the narcissist as a performer perpetually stuck on stage, and you are the entire audience. Their entire sense of self-worth is contingent upon your applause, your boos, your shocked gasps, anything that validates their central importance in the narrative. If the audience suddenly walks out, or worse, just sits there silently staring at the empty stage, the performer has no script left to follow and no reason to breathe. For too long, you have been dancing to their tune. You've been trying to reason with the unreasonable, trying to find empathy where none exists, and trying to win arguments where the rules are constantly being rewritten mid-sentence. You were playing a rigged game, designed to keep you spinning and keep them fed. That cycle is exhausting, isolating, and ultimately unsustainable for your mental health. The crucial shift happens when you internalize this truth. Their conflict is not your responsibility. They are using your genuine, human emotions, your desire for connection and fairness, as leverage. Once you truly understand that arguing with them is merely clarifying your strategy to your opponent, you realize the only winning move is to stop playing the game altogether. That's where the magic begins. This is the introduction to the legendary, yet often misunderstood, gray rock method. Imagine you are a dull, slightly damp, uninteresting pebble, no shiny surface to reflect their grandiosity, and no soft edges for them to manipulate. I know how hard this is, because everything inside you wants to scream, "That's not true!" But gray rock is your superpower. It's about becoming so boring, so unreactive, that they eventually get tired of trying to poke you. You're not being cold, you're just choosing to keep your peace for yourself. When the narcissist tries to bait you with a pointed comment, a sudden manufactured crisis, or a passive-aggressive jab, your response is neutral, factual, and minimal. Okay. Noted. That is your perception, or even better, silence and a blank facial expression. You must consciously disconnect your emotional wiring from their provocative input. This takes tremendous internal discipline, especially initially. At first, they will be confused. They will try softer tactics, perhaps even feigning concern or reverting momentarily to the charm they used during the love-bombing phase, just to check if you're still functional. They think you are simply having a bad day or perhaps sulking, which is an understandable reaction in their warped world. They will toss out minor hooks to see if you bite. When the minor hooks fail, they escalate. This is the danger zone, but also the clearest sign your strategy is working. They will crank up the volume, shifting from passive aggression to deliberate cruelty. They may attack your character, question your memory, or pull in others to pressure you back into reacting. When they realize they're losing their grip, panic sets in. They'll throw insults, lies, and old wounds at you just to see if you still flinch. It's a desperate attempt to feel powerful again. Stay steady. What you're witnessing is not strength, it's fear. It's the sound of your chains breaking. Inside, their thoughts start racing. Why aren't they defending themselves? Do they not care anymore? Your lack of reaction feels, to them, like abandonment, and worse, loss of control. Their internal foundation begins to shake when they can no longer dictate your emotional reality. For those of you implementing this, I know how hard it is to hold the line during this escalation phase. Every fiber of your being screams to defend the truth, to set the record straight, to shout, "That's not fair!" But remember, the moment you react, even negatively, you validate their tactics and reward their terrible behavior. You must endure the uncomfortable silence you've created. The real shift happens when they realize their best material is flopping. They might try hoovering, sudden manufactured kindness, often paired with grand gestures or insincere apologies. They are trying to lure the old reactive you back. But by this point, you are a master of neutrality. You see the manipulation, acknowledge the surface-level action without accepting the emotional baggage, and remain that boring gray rock. And then comes the break. It might not be a physical collapse, but it is an undeniable psychological crack. The narcissist, dependent entirely on external validation and the energy of conflict, suddenly finds themselves starved. They realize they have completely lost access to the unique emotional button-pushing mechanism they reserved just for you. This loss of control is intolerable. When they can no longer generate your fear, your tears, or your anger, the projection mechanisms fail, and for a fleeting moment, they are forced to confront the void within themselves. This confrontation is the most terrifying experience for a narcissist, because their entire false self is built upon avoiding that painful, empty reality. They will lash out in the most pathetic and transparent ways imaginable. This might involve completely withdrawing, becoming sullen and silent, or attempting to provoke a reaction from a third party just so you have to address the chaos. They are trying to triangulate the supply they lost from you, but their desperation is now visible, making them look small and fundamentally powerless. Witnessing this realization, that their power is gone, is intensely validating, but it must be met with continued calm. Do not celebrate the collapse in front of them. That gives them a new reaction to feed on. Instead, observe it with the cool detachment of a scientist studying a predictable, yet destructive chemical reaction. Your silence is the solvent that dissolves their ego. When the narcissist breaks, they are forced into a state of narcissistic injury so severe that they often temporarily, or sometimes permanently, devalue you completely and seek new, easier supply. They label you broken, cold, or unfeeling, precisely because you stopped serving their needs, not because of any actual flaw in your character. This is the moment of your liberation. The minute they deem you unusable, the toxic tether begins to snap. You have demonstrated, not with words but with pure, unadulterated emotional boundaries, that you are the captain of your own ship. You have starved the parasite, and now it must seek another host, freeing you to finally focus entirely on your own healing and recovery. Embrace the silence you've created. This quiet space, once filled with their manufactured drama and chaos, is now yours to rebuild your true self. Use this newfound emotional energy, which was previously spent reacting and defending, to nurture your passions, reconnect with supportive people, and rediscover who you were before the manipulation began. The biggest lesson here is that your emotional response is currency. The narcissist is essentially a transactional entity demanding payment in the form of your emotional labor. By stopping the reaction, you are simply refusing to pay the extortion fee, thereby rendering their entire operation bankrupt. They cannot sustain themselves without that constant input. This journey requires acknowledging the depth of the trauma bond and understanding that even when they break, the emotional residue in you remains. This is not a quick fix. It is the beginning of a profound transformation where your self-worth is no longer negotiable. The narcissist breaks because they rely on external validation. You survive because you discover your internal strength. So, take a deep breath, everyone. Look within and find that steely resolve. That dull, uninteresting gray rock is actually the strongest shield you possess. The day you stop reacting is the day you officially win the war, not just a battle. It is the day you claim your peace and their manufactured reality dissolves into dust. So, take a deep breath. You've been through enough. That quiet room, that silence you finally created, that's not loneliness. That's your life coming back to you. You didn't just win a battle. You found yourself again. And honestly, that's a beautiful thing. You've got this. If this message resonated with you, if you are currently working on your gray rock technique or celebrating your freedom, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Give this video a big thumbs up if you found this information helpful. Subscribe for more content on emotional freedom and healing, and share this with someone who needs to hear that their silence is their power. I will catch you all in the next video.